Yesterday on the show, I told you that coronavirus vaccine manufacturers Pfizer and Moderna rightly turned down an invitation from Donald Trump to go to this propaganda event at the White House, which they call the Vaccine Summit. And it's a really good thing that Pfizer and Moderna did turn that down, because it was completely humiliating and embarrassing. And Donald Trump simply could not contain himself, once again blurting out seemingly uncontrollably that he won when he took questions having nothing whatever to do with vaccination. So let's go through this, and you will quickly notice that Donald Trump, although he likely realizes that Joe Biden will be president on January 20th, he still can't accept that he simply lost. And this is exactly the behavior we would predict from narcissists like Donald Trump. This is exactly what they would struggle with. So we'll start with the wackiest moment, which is when Donald Trump was confronted with the reality that the next administration, Joe Biden's administration, they will be overseeing most of the vaccine distribution. And wouldn't it make sense to involve them in this discussion? And Trump just can't help himself. And he blurts out, he won. You know, he won. Check it out. And he sort of tries to stay on track, but he falls apart with lies about stealing the election. Just a humiliating answer.
The next administration will be the one ultimately that implements a lot of the distribution of this vaccine and will oversee much of the future of the way Operation Warp Speed goes forward. Why not include members of the Biden transition team as part of this summit that you're hosting today?
Well, we're going to have to see who the next administration is, because we won in those swing states, and there was terrible things that went on. So we're going to have to see who the next administration is. But whichever the next administration is will really benefit by what we've been able to do with this incredible science, the doctors, all of the people that came up, the lab technicians. The work that's been done is incredible. And it will be incredible for the next administration. And hopefully the next administration will be the Trump administration, because you can't steal hundreds of thousands of votes. You can't have fraud and deception and all of the things that they did and then slightly win a swing state. And you just have to look at the numbers, look at what's been on tape, look at all the corruption, and we'll see. You can't win an election like that. So hopefully the next administration will be the Trump administration, a continuation, which has led us to the highest stock markets we've ever had, the best employment numbers we've ever had, a rebuilt military. If you look at the tax reductions are the greatest in history, the regulation reductions, the greatest in history. It leads us to Space Force, which nobody thought was possible. All of the things we've done, and we were rewarded with a victory. Now let's see whether or not somebody has the courage, whether it's a legislator or legislatures, or whether it's a justice of the Supreme Court or a number of justices of the Supreme Court. Let's see if they have the courage to do what everybody in this country knows is right. I received almost 75 million votes, the highest number of votes in the history of our country for a sitting president.
So that's 2 minutes of cuckoo, off the wall stuff. I'm not going to go through all of it, but as you can see, Donald Trump cannot accept his loss. He still is telling lies after lies after lies about the election. Trump then falsely claimed plainly that it would take 5 to 6 years to make a vaccine normally, were it not for Trump. Thanks to Operation Warp Speed, he did it in 9 months. And then later he says, you know, without Operation Warp Speed, it could take infinity to make a vaccine.
Before Operation Warp Speed, the typical time frame for development and approval, as you know, could be infinity.
Now, as I've told you before, but it bears repeating, the reason that the Pfizer, Moderna, and AstraZeneca Oxford vaccines were developed quickly, both in and out of the U.S., understand that the timeline was identical in and out of the U.S., regardless of Operation Warp Speed, is it's a different type of vaccine. It's a vaccine that works on an mRNA platform rather than a live or weakened virus. It has nothing to do with Trump. It's science. It's a type of vaccine that's faster to develop. I mentioned yesterday that Donald Trump failed to secure possibly 100 million doses of the vaccine offered to him by Pfizer in late summer. We're going to talk about this more later. But now Donald Trump is trying to hide this by talking about an executive order. Listen to this.
We're working with the world. We have great companies, and we're working with the world. In just a few minutes, I'll sign an executive order to ensure that the United States government prioritizes the getting out of the vaccine to American citizens before sending it to other nations. Now, if necessary, I told you we'll invoke the Defense Production Act.
So what Trump is doing here, because he failed to simply say, yes, give us the doses, he now realizes there's going to be a supply issue, since Pfizer sold the doses Trump turned down to other countries. So Trump has come up with an executive order he's going to sign. It's not clear at all that the executive order will do a damn thing. It's not clear how it would be enforced. It's not clear who would enforce it. It's not clear how it gets us a single additional dose. Trump failed again, but he has this executive order idea, which we'll talk about more later. And then Trump, I guess, struggling with language and physics, saying cases will soon skyrocket downwards. Listen to that.
The numbers should skyrocket downward.
I guess he means cases will soon burrow down deep into the ground, very, very low. Strange language to be using. And then Trump actually took some questions. He was asked about, we have holidays upcoming. How do you want people to be safe? Vaccines won't be widely rolled out until next year. And Trump seems to refer to approaching herd immunity because of what he claims are 15% of people who got the virus and recovered. It's a very weird moment.
President, it's clearly a success, this vaccine. I'm wondering, though, what your message is to the American people, given all of the increasing cases right now, about what they should do over Christmas and the hardship that they're all facing as this virus does get worse.
Yeah, well, CDC puts out their guidelines, and they're very important guidelines. But I think that the vaccine was our goal. That was number one, because that was the way it ends. Plus, you do have an immunity. You develop immunity over a period of time. And I hear we're close to 15%. I'm hearing that. And that is terrific. That's a very powerful vaccine in itself.
So the president seems to be saying there, 15% of the country already got the virus and they've recovered, so they're immune. So we have 15% immunity right now. This is a dangerous claim for a few reasons. Number one, officially, we've only had 15.5 million cases, minus nearly 300,000 that died, meaning we have about 15.2 million people we know about who either have recovered or have the virus now, most of whom will survive. That's under 5% of the population. When Trump says 15% have had it and recovered, it's possible that for every case we know about, there's 2 point something more that we don't know about. That would mean, about 50 million people have had the virus. It could be a stretch. We don't know. But the really dangerous part is we don't know whether every recovered patient is equally immune or how long that natural immunity lasts. It's possible that most of those light or asymptomatic cases may not have the same immunity that somebody who had symptoms and a more serious case and recovered does. We just don't know. So as usual, Trump is clueless, and he's erring, rather than on the side of caution, he's erring on the side of belligerence. Later, Trump was asked why the White House is holding in-person parties with hundreds of people violating the CDC guidelines. And Trump says, well, listen, these are Christmas parties.
Some of these scientific officials here in this room have encouraged Americans not to travel this holiday season, not to go to large gatherings. Across the street, you've been holding holiday parties with hundreds of people, many not wearing masks. Why are you modeling a different behavior to the American people than what your scientists tell them?
Well, they're Christmas parties, and frankly, we've reduced the number very substantially, as you know. And I see a lot of people at the parties wearing masks. I mean, I would say that I look out at the audience at those parties, and we have a lot of people wearing masks, and I think that's a good thing.
Oh, right. A Christmas party. If it's Christmas, then I guess you're protected somehow. It's different than, Hanukkah party or Super Bowl party. That's different. These are Christmas parties, after all. They're indoor events with literally hundreds of people. And then lastly here, Trump calls for judges and Republican legislators to have what he calls the courage to help him overthrow the election results, unable to accept what has taken place here.
I received almost 75 million votes, the highest number of votes in the history of our country for a sitting president, 12 million more than the 63 million we received 4 years ago. President Obama received 3 million less in his second term, and he won easily. I received 12 million more, which, by the way, is a record, 12 million more. And they say that when the numbers came out and the numbers came through machines and all of those ballots were taken away and added, all you have to do is turn on your local television set and you'll see what happened.
So another embarrassing, shameful, destructive Q&A session for Donald Trump. And as we continue to move towards the end of the year holiday, Christmas, Hanukkah starting very soon, very much looking forward to it. We are increasingly hearing rumors that Donald Trump is sort of going to just go to Florida and maybe never come back to Washington, D.C. He'll just kind of disappear. He may never concede. He may not be at the inauguration. He may just kind of be gone and then maybe start campaigning for 2024. Still a question mark, but I don't anticipate too many more of these Q&A sessions. Let's now focus in on this vaccine executive order that I mentioned earlier. This episode is sponsored by Blue Chew. One of the things I make a priority on the show is not to perpetuate stigma for things that don't deserve it. We've talked about mental health. We've talked about many things where we should all just be respectful adults, period, and we would be better off. And Blue Chew can increase performance and give you that extra confidence you may be looking for. BlueChew.com, blue like the color blue, is the first chewable with the same FDA-approved ingredient as in Viagra and Cialis. It can be taken day or night, even on a full stomach, since it's chewable. Blue Chew is prescribed online by licensed doctors. You don't have to go to a doctor's office. You don't have to wait in line at a pharmacy. It ships right to your door in a discreet package. They're made in the USA, and since Blue Chew prepares and ships direct, it's cheaper than a pharmacy. And best of all, no more awkwardness. We've got a special deal for our viewers and listeners. Go to bluechew.com. Get your first shipment free when you use our promo code Pakman. That's Pakman. Pay just $5 shipping. That's BLUE chew.com. Promo code Pakman to try it totally free. Blue Chew is the better, cheaper, faster choice. And we thank them for sponsoring the David Pakman Show.